We got a rock and roll version
At the
here. We
very
got the
end,
Beatles. I love it. Just coming right out. All right, welcome to tonight's training. I'm your host, JD Brake. This is brought on by Jackson Systems. Tonight's training obviously is meant to be interactive. Okay, that's the thing I want to stress here most, especially for the people here. Please ask questions for our presenter here, Gary Crosby. I'm going to introduce him in a second. I just need to get to some housekeeping things first. If you are watching online, you'll notice there's a resource area where you can find the slides for the presentation. You can download cut sheets. Those are all available. Gary's going to go through that and mention that. Those are at your disposal. Also, if you should be able to see the slides right next to the media where the presentation and all the camera stuff is. So if you want to watch both the slides and the video, it's right there in the slides window. So tonight, Gary Crosby, come on up here from Honeywell / Resideo. How are you doing, sir?
Resideo killed the radio star.
So, Gary, what are we talking about today?
Water.
You like that?
No.
I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did
it's
it.
pretty bad.
I did it.
So we got, so why don't you tell them what Jackson did?
Yeah.
You guys are in the hydronic business now.
We are in the hydronic business now. So traditionally
some
heating and
plumbing
air,
parts.
but yeah, so now obviously, you know, in an ongoing effort to expand our controls here at Jackson Systems, we're now servicing the hydronic line from Honeywell. So generally, and really there's no difference between moving air and moving water.
A little difference.
Right?
Water's just a
wetter.
You know, it's wetter. Dancer.
So Gary, tell us a little bit about yourself, what
Yep.
you do, and you've got some background in the business as well.
Yeah, so contractor for a long time.
Okay.
I went to work for Honeywell in 2006, and then as we spun off from Honeywell, and then we now have Resideo. Now work for Resideo. We make all the Honeywell home product, and we're going to talk about something people probably didn't know that we did. We've been doing hydronics for a lot of years,
right?
Plumbing for a lot of years. So we're going to roll through it, and if you got any questions, just ask.
Absolutely.
And then there is some a couple of files that we put in your file bank.
It's in the resource
for your contractors
window.
to get. So.
They can access that anytime during the presentation.
And then for you that's live here, we can email it to you.
Yep.
Anything I'm going to show you that you can use as a tool back at your office. Okay, we good?
Yeah, and please, online, ask questions. We will answer in the chat. So if you have a question for Gary, we will interrupt him gladly and ask your question so that it gets answered in a timely fashion. You guys ready?
Cool.
All right, take over, Gary.
All right, everybody. So Honeywell Home Product, Resideo is the company that makes that stuff. Okay, so all of the Honeywell product you've been putting in for years and years and years, it's the same product, same engineers, same plants, just a different name on the corporate side. But when you pick it up at Jackson, it's still the Honeywell red box you're used to. Okay, so we're going to go through a little bit of the plumbing offering, you know, the potable water, and then we're going to go through and cap it off with the hydronic heating side. A lot of the contractors I call on do both, right? They have a plumbing side of the business, they have a heating side. So this is nice to have something on both sides of your office there to maybe get some leads and cross sell between those two sides. Because you can control all these hydronic panels and stuff from RedLink thermostats, be online, just like you are with your regular furnace and air conditioner. You can run your boiler from your phone too. It's very simple to do. And you can combine your air handler and your boiler together in one thermostat. We got some wireless ways of doing that. So let's go through our water solutions for the potable side of the business, which is stuff that you can drink and shower with, right? It's what potable, depending on how you pronounce it. But it just means water that you drink and bathe with, okay? So where we are in the house, that stuff is your mixing valves, right? So you might use mixing valves in the hydronic side and the plumbing side, because on the plumbing side you may want to run your water heater a little hotter than what you want it coming out of the sink, right? On the heating side, you might have a loop in some concrete, and then you might have a radiator, and those two operate at 2 different temperatures, so that thermostatic mixing valve reduces that second loop temperature different from the other one, right? So that's why we use those. And people have been using Honeywell mixing valves for years and years. They're Teflon coated, so the hardness of that water, it has a harder time corroding the inside of that thing versus others. So it's a very popular mixing valve. Then recently we updated and we got into the pressure reducing valve side. And you can see from these pictures, I got 2 different ones. I've got a pressure reducing valve, and it's a dial set. So you actually know how much pressure you're going to set your water to instead of having to pipe in a bunch of gauges. Mine's already ready to do that. And then if you want to put a gauge on it, there's a gauge port on either side of that. You can just screw a gauge on, and you don't have to spend extra money and time piping all that mess in. We also have one that's got a rinsing filter on it. So if you've got stuff like sand or whatever floating through your water and you want to get that before it gets into your drinking water, before it gets to your ice machine, before it gets to your tankless water heater or something, then you can reduce the pressure and filter the water at the same time, which is really nice. We've got water leak and freeze detectors that are Wi-Fi that you can place around. Not only can you put them in your drain pan for your furnace, you can also put them around your water heater, up under sinks, up under your, in your laundry room where your plumbing comes in and ties into your dishwasher or your washing machine. I've got one under my dishwasher, one up under my ice machine of my refrigerator. So anywhere that I could have a normal plumbing leak, that's going to tell me. And it's in about 3 weeks ago here in Indianapolis, it was negative 12 degrees, wasn't it, guys? Ladies, it was nasty, wasn't it? Well, a lot of people's pipes freeze, right? Because they might have them on an outside wall. And every time I turn on our local news those mornings, there's always a local plumbing contractor teaching you to open up your cabinets or that outside closet to the house to make sure you don't freeze your pipe. Well, you could also go put that Wi-Fi detector in that area, and it would email you if it got too cold in there before it ever busted the line, right? And then if you never got that detector, that anywhere that wire, that rope hits that water, it'll give you a 90 decibel alarm in the house, 100 decibel alarm in the house, and you'll get an email and a text, so you don't have to wait on that pipe to bust. And if it does, we got you covered both ways. And then you've got different awareness and security that we put in the house that you didn't have before. And then a lot of people don't realize that these Bradford White and A.O. Smith water heaters, they all have Honeywell gas valves on them already from the factory. So we make a non-connected water leak detector that plugs into the front of that valve. Then there's a harness kit that comes with that allows you to get if that water heater ever leaks or anywhere around it, it will give a 90 decibel audible alarm for the house. It'll also shut the gas off. So it's because it's not a Wi-Fi, when there's got to be something, if I don't hear the alarm, to make me know that I need to go check my water heater, because so if it shuts the gas off, you got no hot water, what's the first thing you do? You run to the water heater, and then it's going to have, you can put Mission Mechanical on that, right? And it'd say, hey, that's who I need to call to come out here and fix this right now. So we've got connected and non-connected ways of detecting the water for you if it's leaking. We're going to go through the mixing valves that we have, and we've got different 3-way valves, different direct connect to your water heater valve, and larger size commercial mixing valves that are really nice for your offering. This is a direct connect valve that goes strictly on top of the tank. Under sink mixing valves and some more sediment filtration for that system. So here's these are some of the new products we came out with last year. Our larger size, low lead, high capacity mixing valve for restaurants, hotels, larger homes. And you get some of these big houses, right? These $1 million houses, and they got these big Roman tubs. They might need some kind of a big mixing valve for stuff like that. And we make them 1 inch all the way up to 3 inch for commercial spaces for that mixing valve. It's really nice. We also have some different ProPress. Any of you use ProPress or PEX fittings and things like that? So we have different fittings that you can order that's already put on there. So if you wanted the PEX connector or the ProPress connector, we've got them. You can order them that way now. And then our boiler fill valve, we'll go through that at the end when we get to our hydronic side. So let's look at what we have available first. Is if you install water heaters or you repair water heaters, or you're or somebody says that they're not getting enough capacity out of the current water heater they have, and you remember they what was it, a couple years ago the code changed. So if you get a heat pump, you can't go back with I guess the old 50 gallons now are heat pumps, right? So they're like this tall, and they're just, how you gonna fit them in there when there wasn't a lot of room? So you can actually take a smaller 40 gallon, put a mixing valve on top of it, crank it up, and mix it down and get the capacity you were getting with that larger one, and save you some room in there, because there may not be a way to do it. Yes, sir.
Hey, Gary, Sean from Air Serv Westchester out there, he was kind of a question. He's asking about the mixing valves.
Yes.
Saying he's having trouble how to set them, like how to figure out and set them, because they don't. That's actually, he says, we avoid using the Honeywell mixing valves because we can't figure out how to set them.
How to set them as far as the temperature output?
I guess. I mean.
So I've got a calculator. I'm going to show you here in a minute how to calculate the incoming water temperature and all that stuff. And it's in that, what did you call that file thing?
The resources.
The resources. If you look in there right now, that calculator's in it. And we're going to go through it here in just a second.
Gotcha.
That's a great question, right? How do you know what you don't know? And this will help you with any mixing valve, right? The calculator just says, here's what you do to get the most out of it, okay? So how we put these on there, we've got different styles, and some of them we designed to where you have 2 sweats, right? So I'm only sweating in 2 pipes instead of 6 or 9 sweats, so I'm saving a lot of time. So if I want to do a quick mixing valve upgrade, I'm not gonna be out there for hours and hours doing it. So we do the AMX 300. That's a direct connect. It's already got the pieces in there. We'll go through it. We've got this one that's it's a little heavier duty than that, and but it's got a couple extra sweats. And then this would be the maximum number. But some people still like to use those, and it doesn't matter. You're doing the same thing with any 3. It's just some of them are less labor intensive than others, okay? So why do we want to mix down the water? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, the hotter the tank, the less likely Legionella bacteria grows in it, okay? So if I crank up my gas water heater to 140, and then I mix it down to 120 coming out the other end, or 100 coming out the other end, or whatever is going to be acceptable to the people taking showers, or they want to mix it down so they don't, they got little kids, they don't want to scald them, right? That's why you're doing it, okay? So when I get to 140 degrees in that tank, that Legionella dies. It will not grow. So you know what I'm talking about when I say, if you ever heard of Legionnaire's disease? So it's if that bacteria is in that water, you don't get it from drinking it. You get it from it diffusing and mixing with the air in the shower. And you know how you breathe in that steamy air? Well, you're breathing in water too. And if that bacteria is in that mist, it gets in your lungs, and that's how you get sick from it. So the hotter the temperature, the less likely you're growing that stuff in there. And then the other part is burn chart, right? More people are burned by water than fire every year, right? And if you're going to sell a mixing valve to an end user that's worried about their kids messing around with the sink, well, this is how you show them what we need to set it at. Because if I crank it up to 140 or whatever, here's 140 degree water. In 3 seconds, if you're 0 to 5 years old, you got 3rd degree burns. Okay, that's not very long, right? If you go down to 120 degrees, if you set a baby in the tub, in 5 minutes they've got third-degree burns, right? If they go in there and they mess around and turn it on themselves, what's the water coming out the other end, right? So this should be in every plumber's quote book when you're trying to explain to a homeowner what the benefits of this valve is, right? Not only will it give you more run time, more hot water capacity, but I'm not going to burn myself or somebody that I'm worried about, and I can keep my tank from growing Legionella bacteria in it. Does that make sense? So that's the purpose of it. We'll give you all these slides. If you want one of these burn charts, you can have it. So if I take, this right here is telling you that the regular 60, 80 gallon water heaters are gone. So if I install a 50 gallon and mix it 140 and mix it down to 120 degrees, which is, and then you got to be rated, right? So we have the ASSE ratings. And then you have to have, let's see here, your hot water capacity. This is the chart right here. So I'm actually gonna click on this, and I'm gonna have, who was the guy that was just asking me the question? Sean, tell me when you can see this on your screen. Is there a little bit of a lag?
Yeah, I think it's like a 5-second lag.
Okay, so Sean, if you can hear me, I want you to tell me what your water heater tank size is going to be, what your hot water temperature is when you crank it all the way up, what your cold water coming from the street is, which should be about 50 degrees right now if you've got the same temperature we have outside. So if he'll give, and then what mix does he want to go to? Did he get all that?
He hasn't.
Okay. So we'll see if he will get back with us. If not, I'm going to enter in a couple of sizes. So let's say I go out to the house and I put in a 50 gallon water heater, and the hot water temperature I can get to 140 degrees. So I'm going to type that in. Then my cold water temperature is 55 degrees coming from the street. I want to mix it down to 110 coming out of my fixtures. Okay, so the hottest water I can get is 110 degrees. I just turned a 50 gallon tank into the capacity of a tank that's 77.3 gallons big. Okay, that's how. And Sean, I hope that answers the question on how to size it. Okay. Because they're all the sizing of it is what you're, like I usually got a 3/4 line on a residential job. Everybody agree for the main, right? So or the water heater. So that's how you determine, show your end user what's going to be the result of that. Yep, go ahead.
You said the ones he's using is the temp is on top, but the turning handle didn't change the temperature. Not sure what model. Not sure if that helps or not. Temp is on top, turning the handle, didn't change the temp. Not sure what model he's using.
I just have him call my cell phone, okay? Because when you set it up, your tank is you turn the water heater all the way up, so you got to make sure that tank is cranked up on the gas valve, okay? Then you mix down the water. When you say you're going to mix it to 110 here, that's the number I'm going to turn my valve to, 110, and then I'm going to check it with usually with a we actually on that one mixing valve we actually put like a fixed tank strip that you can put right on the pipe, or you can just check it at the first tap or whatever makes the most sense for you. Is that cool? Let's see here. So that's how you use that calculator, and I gave everybody a copy so you can use that when you size those things up. So in the box, you're going to have these parts here. This just screws down in the very top of the water heater. We have an 8-inch or an 11-inch spread on them. If you're 50 gallons and less, it's 8-inch. If you're 55 and up, it'll be 11-inch spread between those two, the in and out of that top of that water heater. And then here's your mixing valve. So you'll increase it to hotter or colder. There's actually no numbers on that, so you have to use. We have like a fish tank strip that comes with it that you can put on the hot pipe coming out of the top, and it'll heat up and tell you what the temperature is. And that's not forever. That's just, those things are, you open them up out of the pack, they last for a while, but it lasts long enough for you to mix it down right there. Now, this is a more heavier duty industrial one. It's all brass. It's, to make your mix, you use an Allen wrench that we provide to go hotter or colder on it. And then you got recirc ports and all the things you need. But that's a really nice, tough mixing valve as well. And then we got these that are pretty much old faithful. We just sell a lot of these mixing valves in every market. They're very durable. They're a dime a dozen. They're Teflon coated, so they're very reliable mixing valves. And you can see this has got the ProPress fittings already on there, so you can actually just put your copper in, ProPress it, and you're good to go. Okay, and we've got those in other PEX and other styles as well. The large commercial mixing valves, of course, they're going to be bigger because they're going to have more volume. They're able to move through them. These are very competitively priced. So when you look at other brands versus ours in your larger commercial mixing valve world, you're going to see a big value in the Honeywell line. I'm not sure why that is, but it's that way. And you got to actually, some of the replacement cartridges for our competitors are as much as our valve is. So it's, check those out when you're quoting your next job. Undersink mixing valve. Now this is a really nice valve. If you go to a commercial bathroom, you know how they've got like a metered, you put your hands over there, the robot sees you, it lets a metered a bit of water out at a certain temperature. Well, that's either done by that big commercial mixing valve stuck somewhere, and then all the bathrooms get mixed down to whatever code says, or you've got one of these undersink mixing valves at every sink, right? So it depends on how they drew it up, right? So this comes able to do a 4-port or a 3-port install. A 4-port install would be where you still have the ability to turn on hot and cold, but only to a certain range, right? They still put range stops on it. So, but that would need a 4-port to do that. If it's just the one that puts out the lukewarm water and it determines what it is, that's a 3-port. So you don't have to buy anything extra. All those hookups are in my box. It also has this little clip on there that's ready to mount. So you can actually just put that inside the cabinet, screw it to it, and it's installed. So you're not going to sit out there and waste time putting the thing in. And the end user, usually this is covered up in a commercial job, but where else could you use that in a house? Like if you got a Jack and Jill bathroom, you got the son and daughter share the bathroom or whatever, that could be a place where, hey, we're okay with the water temp, but I'd really like to make sure that I got a point of source here, maybe at the Jack and Jill bathroom. I don't want them to turn that water on. That's a good application for it too. To change it, you got to pull the top off, turn it upside down, and fit it down in the key. Because if you just turn it like it is right now, it stays locked. So it's not intuitive for a child or a patron to change the temperature on the thing. You got to know that to do it. So it's a very cool deal. Lead free, very nice looking. When you look at the PRVs and our mixing valves next to stuff that might be out in the field, you'll see a big difference visually, because we think these products could really stir up a little more attention than they normally do. Okay. Now let's get into pressure reducing valves. How many of you the plumbers in the room, you use these pressure reducing valves? I mean, anybody's. So I live up in Fishers, which is about 30 minutes east of here, right? Did I say that right? And from the street, I got 90 psi, and I need to be about 60 to 65 in my house to not cause problems. And how it causes problems is if you have high blood pressure and you don't take your medicine, you're going to cause a problem. What happens is all that pressure, right, of that excessive pressure wears out your kidneys, wears out your heart, wears out everything. Well, if you got excessive pressure in a house, isn't that the same thing? Isn't it like stressing out all the seals on your fixtures and everything else? And it'll eventually blow the stuff out, right? So if you check the blood pressure of the house by just taking a hose bib gauge or whatever, however you check the pressure, check it. And then prescribe this product to stop that high pressure from coming in that house or that business or that whatever they're trying to protect, and reduce it, right? And it'll work really good. So how these how ours are a single stage direct acting pressure valve with a spring in it, and it also is a non-bleed as well. So, and it also, whatever happens at the street doesn't affect what's going on the other side of that valve. So it's a very good valve. It's also, if you notice at the top of it, it's got a dial set, right? So most of them are just like, that with a bolt hanging out of the top of it. Nothing special at all. These, you actually know what your setting is, and then to double check it, there'll be you can unscrew that cap, or there's one on the other side. Got a check valve, and it's a 1/4 inch tap, mixed tap, so you can put your gauge on there, and you can see what your mix is. If you want to leave it, you can, or if you just wanted to double check it, you can. But they're there for you. And the reason we put one on either side is because you may need to lay it down. It may be a wall on this side or a wall on that side. So we give you a multiple access. You can order these body only, right? So it won't come with any of the fittings, because you can screw into the thing, right? You can screw into it, or you can put the unions on there. So it's however you want to order it. And then the dial set pressure allows you to set that correctly without guessing. Then we also give you these dust caps. We put that on there once you set it, so it keeps like a homeowner or something from looking down at something they may want. You'd have to unscrew that screw to reset that, but if you cover that up, once you lock that in, it's not going to change, but you don't want to give them something visually to look at and move. So that's what that's there for. Now, if you look at the bottom here, it's in-pipe serviceable. So if you shut the water off and unscrewed that bottom, you could actually replace it and clean and do whatever you need to do to that valve without taking the pipe loose if you want to do it. We also make a version that's, if you unscrewed that bottom, you can buy that filter assembly separate, or you can buy the PRV with the filter already on it. And so if you've got any type of sediment in that in your water line coming in, we're going to strain it through that 100 micron stainless steel filter, okay? And then now that's going to build up sediment, so as your end user sees that fill up, or every time you go out on a plumbing cleaning check or something, you'd flush that out just by moving, just a ball valve down there, okay? And it'll plunge flush that filter out. Not unless it ever clogs up so bad that, I mean, you can change that that media in there, but you usually don't have to once you rinse it out, okay? But you never know, right? It depends on what you're trying to strain. But those are really nice pieces of gear. And then we make universal valves for those A.O. Smith and Bradford White water heaters, okay? Because we made all those. So these are all the different part numbers that we have for the Honeywell and the OEM side. We've reduced that down to, I believe, 6 valves change all those valves, right? So if you're doing, well, for Bradford White, there's only 2 valves. the Bradford White valves change, Bradford White valves change all the ones we ever made for them. 4 A.O. Smith valves change all the A.O. Smith valves. So that goes with any, like A.O. Smith makes what? State Water Heater, A.O. Smith, and probably a few others. Bradford White makes a few different ones. So we do make a universal line for those if you ever need to change that water heater valve out, okay? Water leak freeze detector, those kind of go hand in hand with plumbing because you've got places that you want to get alerts from if water's leaking or freezing or whatever. So you can get those alerts from those hotspot areas. Hopefully this summer I'll have a Wi-Fi shutoff for the main. So we're working on it now, and we'll be testing it very soon. So when those water sensors go off, right now you physically have to go home or whatever and close that valve. Here in hopefully by the mid to late summer, we'll have a automatic shutoff that if any of those sensors go off, it shuts that valve for you. Okay, that's coming, so it's going to be really nice. All right, now when we get into hydronic heating, we control a lot of the boiler room here, right? So here's your boiler, here's your indirect tank, right? You got boiler pumps that circulate that all through the system. Got expansion tanks that we put in to when our water's heated up, we got to have, the pressure's is going to go up in there. We got to fill that thing with water, and we got to have a pressure reducing valve and a backflow preventer in it. So we make those too. All the valves you might use, the hydronic zone controller, we do all that stuff. So we're going to highlight a couple of those. And if you're doing red link stuff already, a lot of times you might have a boiler in the basement and an air handler in the attic, and you got a couple of thermostats on the wall, right, over in that old part of Indy. You can actually take those off the wall, put a wireless boiler module on your boiler, the EIM for the wireless part of the Focus Pro or Vision Pro, and actually have your air handler and your boiler wireless to one thermostat on the wall in the house. Makes your job a lot easier, okay? So, and let's look at some different things we can do. So, hydronic zone panels, we make 2 types, okay? We make a really simple, this is our new boiler controller that I'll go through. It's so laid out, so simple. You just put your stats in one end, your pumps or valve out the other. You tie your boiler pump in here. You got a indirect tank. You got an Aqua stat. You got a priority zone for that, and it's just dead simple. It's got a couple of transformers in it to give you 80 VA. So if you got this is actually the valve panel, right? So let's say they put a bunch of old style Tacos in there. Well, those suckers are like power hogs, right? This will handle them, right? We put way more capacity than you really need in it, okay? We got red, white, and commons on here. So if you want to put Wi-Fi stats for your heating, I've got a common ready to go because the Wi-Fi stat's going to need that. And then I've got my everything nice and color coded. Now you notice the cover's off this, but I can still see my zones and my lights. So, and it's all lit. So a lot of our competitors, you take the lid off and all that stuff's on the lid. So you can't check out with your meter while you're watching zones light up, and mine you can. So, and we put a couple of fuses in here that are extra. So if you blow a fuse on the board, you got a couple real quick you can do a change on. So it's a really well thought out little piece of gear. And then we also have what's called our traditional AQ panel. This is when I want to go up to 16 zones, and if I use my communicating stat, I can go to 64 zones, and do some really awesome stuff. So we got easy, and we got some more complicated things for you. And then we've got different types of stats you can hook to it. A circulating pump, zone valve. A lot of people didn't know we made pumps, right? We do. We make 3. And what's different about this Honeywell boiler pump is you notice it's got a universal flange on it. Well, that's a patent. That's something we put on there so I don't have to buy a pump and a flange kit. it's gonna tie into the flanges that are out in the field. It also comes with a check valve, and sometimes you need a flow valve, sometimes you don't. But with a lot of our competitors, you have to have a pump with a check valve in it and one without it, and that's more stuff you got to stock. This, you just place it in there if you need it. You don't put it in there if you don't. And we make 3 sizes that change like 60 different pumps out in the field. So I just use my 3 speed on this one. This is our smaller pump. If you look at the pump brochure that we'll have for you online and that you have live, on the back of it, it'll show you all the different ones that it'll change. So it's a nice little pump, right? So if you service a lot of pumps, you know, in the field, what do you got? You got everything, right? It could be a Grundfos one day, it could be a Wheelo one day, it could be a Takeo one day, and this will change it. And then you're not running all over town trying to find that certain pump, right? So that saves you some roll time. And then zoning valves we've been making for years, and a lot of times it's going to be a zoning valve, and it could have been there for 50 years, right, that we made it. So we're going to go through, here's the 2 transformers we put in our board on our valve board, so you got plenty of VA power to power those zone valves. If you put the thermostat on the wall, we're going to turn, that's going to how you're going to turn it on and off. You're either going to use a pump or a valve panel. Sometimes you have pump and valve in the same job, right? So if you're going to do that, you might want to go to AQ, because it has a different pump panel and a different valve expansion you can put together on there. And if you got a group pump and a bunch of valves, you can assign it to run all that for you. And then you get into our 3-zone panel here. This is a typical boiler job you'd run into. We got the panel covered. We got T6 thermostats that are heat only with a floor sensor. It comes in the box. Yes.
Gary, got a question?
Yes, sir.
From Rick. He wants to know, is that expansion tank, is that on its own, or do you have to get the kit if you want to use it for a water
we sell
heater?
the Honeywell expansion tanks by themselves, and they also can come in a kit that's got, I mean, we sell all these things a la carte, or you can buy them in a kit. So the kit would be the tank, the airflow preventer, the air eliminator, backflow preventer, fill valve, the tank, all in one box, right? So, but you can buy them separate for sure. So that's what the layout's going to look like, and then we'll go through the product. So the controls, you're either going to pick the newer panel, or you're going to pick the AQ to do it. Then if you want to, let's say that you have a church somewhere that's got like 4 boilers in it, you know, just 4 cast iron boilers in a row, a bunch of pumps, and then relays and thermostats. You want to get them a little more updated than that, right? So you could take all them relays off, put the relay panel on, or put the pump panel on to manage all the pumps. Then I could put a T775 controller on the wall, and tie all the boilers into the T775, and then tie the T775 input to my relay. And what'll happen is I can lead, lag, and stage those boilers and put reset on them. So it just really updated that business boiler system for that church without spending a ton of money to do that. To do what I just said in a competitive, hydronic world is thousands and thousands of dollars more than these couple of pieces that you probably already put in every day. Okay, so the first thing we do is turn the heating zone on or off. Okay, so I can do that with red link stats. I can do that with Wi-Fi stats. I can do that with non-connected heat only stats. So pick what you want to do. Okay, any of those things will work with it. The Wi-Fi water leak detectors, those are sold as individual packs. I'm not worried about the cameras. I don't even know why that's in there. All the red link stuff, there's a sheet we're going to send out that gives you everything that'll work with our hydronic systems for that. And EIM, we do have some you can actually, on a lot of people didn't realize on a Prestige, that a Prestige can run a 4 heat 2 cool geo system and also run 2 pumps of radiant loop. So you can, like if you had your garage floor on there, you could run all that through one Prestige if you really want to do that. So that's how, those are the controls that are compatible with it. And then this one right here, this is the wireless outdoor module that we use in the heating side to make a heat pump wireless to the thermostat. You can also use it as to make a boiler wireless to the thermostat. So if you got a boiler in the basement and an air handler in the attic, you'd buy the RedLink EIM for that air handler. You'd buy that RedLink ERM, which is equipment remote module for the boiler, and you can have the boiler and the air handler talk wirelessly to that thermostat and run both systems off of one stat now, without running any wires in that structure. Okay. So those are the controls that'll work with it. And this is a job out in San Fran where a guy took a bunch of Wi-Fi stats. This is a couple years ago because that's our older Wi-Fi stat. He ran hardwired sensors to the space because the homeowner didn't want to see the stats, but they did want to run them all from their phone. And there's the hydronic panels right there, and everything's just tied right into it right there. And that's how they tied Wi-Fi into that system on that one. That's just their contractor preference, how he did it. Okay. When you get into the thermostats, you're just setting them up for Wi-Fi just like you normally would and hook them up and you're ready to go. Then you tie them into our TCC app just like you do with the furnace, right? Doesn't matter what this thing's hooked to. If you hook it to a boiler or a furnace, it doesn't know, right? It just, well, it knows when you tell it. This is a radiant system, not a furnace. But on the phone, the homeowner just sees heat, right? And that's how you do it. On RedLink, you got to go TCC and enter all that stuff in, then you can get to it. On our our heat only systems that I'm not running any air conditioning. I just want to, and I don't want any Wi-Fi, and I need a slab sensor, and I just want a no frills easy thermostat. Well, this is it, right? So same back plate we use on the T series for the regular T6. 2 wires into this. That'll be, your R&W down to your boiler. This will be your slab sensor. It comes with a really long slab sensor. It's 10K ohms, and you put that in your slab, and that'll read. I can do total 100% floor temperature if I want, or I could do air, or I could do a combination of air and floor with that stat. So it's really nice. Okay, and in a cinch to use. It's just a 2-button stat for the homeowner to check out, right? So it's very nice. If you've got a competitor's sensor already in the slab, as long as it's a 10K ohm sensor, you can tie it to my thermostat. Okay, you don't have to pull that sensor out. You can just but you'll have to use that stat because it's made to sense floor temp. Okay. Let's see here. This is how I can get in there and control that floor temperature. There's your slab sensor that would go out into the space. Yes, sir.
Got a question from Constantino.
He's a cool dude. How are you, brother?
He's got kind of a question-ish, kind of a pointer here. He says, Gary, I believe some thermostats can't control zone valves because some zone valves are power open and others are power closed.
Yeah, so you talking about the 3-wire zone valve from White Rogers there, Constantino? Because I got your diagrams for all that, buddy. And I'm going to show you here in about 2 minutes. So let me tell me what he says. He thumbs upping. We also make a T1, okay? And this is used on the heating side for heat-only situations. It could also be used on the forced air side. I'm in the boiler side for heat-only, okay? This is when I just use an air. I don't need a slab sensor. you can just make that heat only, and it becomes the heating stat, you know, for the system. Very simple. We also make this. So if you want to take, if you need something that's 24 volt, 120 volt, or 240 volt, this thermostat is a hydronic stat for anything that runs that's non-fan driven. And it runs hydronic or non-hydronic, so it'll do a zone valve or it'll do like an electric heat. You can tie it straight in the stat. That thing will do pump valve exercise every 2 weeks in the summertime. So if it's stuck on, you know, it's that way, it's not like stuck there and one's, you know, all summer long it didn't do anything. It'll spin that pump or it'll open and close that valve every 2 weeks for like a couple seconds. It's a pretty nice feature, right? So a stat that a lot of people didn't realize we had, it's there. And then we'll look at our pumps and all that other stuff. That TL8100 works with all this stuff here, so it's really good mess. It'll also work with a baseboard radiant, no fans, okay? Gas fireplaces, and it's battery operated is why it'll do that. And then heat only baseboard, all kinds of good stuff. As long as it doesn't have a fan in it. I'm not going to get into the setup of it, but it's a programmable or non-programmable stat. And I saw a lot of them up in Chicago for some simple installs. So now let's look at our panel lineup. So when you look at the panel here, we put our logo straight into the panel, so it's pressed in. It's a nice heavy duty plastic, and then there's a lock there, so it'll hinge off of it, and you can take your little screwdriver and open and close it that way. So there's not like screws and something silly, and it locks in nice. You see your zone 1 through 6. It'll tell you if it's open or on or not. It'll tell you if your boiler's running or your end switch is made. Gives you a bunch of information on the front. You take the door off, all that information is still there, right? And then here's where you tie in your thermostats. Here's where your boiler TT comes in. Here's where your end switch can tie in. Here's your priority switch for your domestic hot water heater, and then or your domestic hot water heater. Then you'll pick which one of these is going to be your priority zone for that. You got your domestic pump and your priority zone pump places there. Yes, sir.
I got a question from Joe.
Yep.
This was referring to earlier. Does Honeywell have a line voltage Wi-Fi thermostat?
No, we're working on it though. I need one bad. So stay tuned. We're working on that. And we're also working on a Wi-Fi multi, and it'll probably be the one he wants for like a multi-pipe type of a, you know, commercial apartments where they got like 4-pipe systems and stuff like that. That's high voltage. They need to be Wi-Fi. We need one bad. So that's on a rush project for us right now. Wish I had a yes for you, but I don't yet. All right, so let's go to the pump panel. Pump panel, we make a couple different sizes. Dead simple. I mean, your pump goes in the bottom, your thermostat goes in the top. Zone 1 could be my Aqua stat to my indirect tank. There's my domestic hot water pump to my indirect tank. There's my 120 volt leads coming in to power the panel. It's just dead simple, right? And that's why we made it simple, is because that's what you need. And we have all the diagrams you need to help you out in the field as well. You get into our zone valves, and of course, you know, you got your pumps that's going to run your domestic hot water and your system water through there, and then your valves tie in straight to the panel. It's dead simple. It's not that hard to wire up. Now, Constantino, this is for you, brother. Okay. Here's your 3-wire White Rogers valve. I have diagrams that show you how to wire the 3-wire. So I got the three of those wires going in to my bottom of my panel. Then you got that 1 wire where I got to pull some power out of the top of that panel. Okay. I've got a diagram for you for the zoning, and I've got it if you just want to take our thermostat and hook it directly to that White Rogers 3-wire zone valve. All of my zone valves all of my thermostats will run a 3-wire zone valve. You have to set them up as Series 20 zone valve because that's what a 3-wire zone valve is. What you don't know is where to tie it all to a lot of times. So what we're using, the diagram, I can't really read that, Constantino, right now. Let me get down here and see if I still can't read it. So it tells you what colors to tie on your thermostat, okay? And then where to tie them in on top of that valve. Is Constantino acknowledging? Okay. All right. Thank you, Constantino. I'll send those directly to you as well. And then anybody else who wants them, they're in the Prezzo here. Yes, sir.
This is from James, Custom Sheet Metal.
Yes, sir.
What does the Aquastat do at the pump panel?
Yeah, so the Aquastat is there to show you, like, that's going to have an indirect tank tied to it. So the Aquastat tells you, is always looking at the water temperature in the tank, right, guys? And if it's low, then it tells the boiler to kick on. And then if you're heating, the boiler priority switches to to make the hot water before it goes back to the heating demand. Did I say that correctly? I'm looking at my hydronic specialist over here. I'm from Tennessee. You know, hydronics in Tennessee is the damn. You know what I mean? It's a luxury. They never put a boiler in your house unless you're rich and wanted a towel warmer, you know? But here it's heat, right? So, but anyway, that's what that Aquastat represents, is that's actually, you got an indirect tank tied to that, okay? Now, if you're using Prestige IAQs, and I want to still use a Prestige IAQ because I might have some forced air I'm doing on one side, right? You know how we have RCRH jumpers in there? If you take the RCRH jumper out, then I can run all of my heating demands through the R, RH, and W. And then I run all my forced air zones to the RC, Y, and G. Does that make sense? That's how you separate those out. That's why you have those jumpers in our stats. And on the T series, it's not a jumper anymore. It's a little slide switch, right? So that's when, if you got two transformers, you got to separate those two transformers. Now I can put these, let's say that I got a whole bunch of boiler control right here, but over here I got my forced air right in the same room. That's when you can do all that, right? Where I can run my air handler wires over, and you could tie them all together right there. The only thing about this picture and the one I'm about to show you, those EIMs have to be 2 foot apart. They can't be right beside each other. This guy here, hold on, let me see if I got that picture real quick. Where's that at? Oh, I'll show you in a minute. But those EIMs have to be 2 foot apart. But then you can totally tie them into that hydronic panel. And then when you look online, you'll see your boilers and you'll see your air handlers. But the homeowner, it'll feel to them like it's one system, and they can switch from heat to cool. Makes it really nice, okay? Now, so we have a 3-zone and a 4-zone pump panel. We also have a 5-zone and a 6-zone pump panel. So pick which one you need. We don't expand them. We don't have like expansion panels. But if you had 12 zones, you can take 2 6-zone panels and tie them together, okay? That's how we do it instead of having a bunch of extra panels on that line. On the AQ line, we have expansion panels that connect together, but there's also some other features I'll share with you. And then on our switching relays, if you're doing all valves in that system, you'll do a 3, 4, or 6-zone panel. You'll just choose it. And then this here, you remember the old Honeywell relay that's been around forever that you put between the thermostat and the pump? Well, that's the new one, okay? It's a really nice, updated looking switching relay for you. Now we get into the AQ. We're gonna wrap it up with the AQ panel. The AQ panel is a simple control, but it does a little more than the simple one I just showed you. It's a little more advanced, all right? So the AQ panel, allows you to see how those are kind of stuck together and they look like they're made for each other. So they actually will snap together like Legos, right? And when I take the cover off, it's sitting on a DIN rail, and there's a transformer module, a boiler module, and a module that's either a pump or a valve module. So it's a little different. When you get inside there, the transformer module's got, you can put up to 16 thermostats on that thing. It'll run 4 Honeywell valves or 2 Takeo valves. But if you had 4 Takeo valves, you could just add another transformer to it and get the 80 VA you need. Where my panel already had 80 VA on the other one. But you see how it's modular. So there's some internal wiring already done. And there's also 2 wires that's linking these modules together, and that's like a 2-wire bus, right? So if you think about, let's say your boiler's in the basement, and then you got all these main floor zones. Well, let's say you had a second floor, right? And the second floor, the hydronic pipe comes up in there with a pump, and then a whole nother group of zones up there, right? So I can go and add this panel upstairs away from all this and tie them together with a 2-wire bus between those 2 floors and have it all running back down to the boiler. So it's a way better designed system if you got like a large commercial, bunch of zones in a big church or something you're trying to do. Let's go through some of the features here. When this AQ panel is sitting all summer long, it will give you pump valve exercise automatic all summer long. So no matter if it's a pump or a valve, it'll exercise them. It also does your priority override for domestic hot water, boiler bypass. Sometimes if you got a cast iron boiler and you want to, if your water is less than 140 degrees coming back that cast iron boiler, you'd cause some problems. So you can put a bypass in between it, and it comes with a temperature probe. So and you can set it to say if the water temperature gets below 140, crack that valve, let some hot water in, so I don't condense that non-condensing boiler. Okay, so it's really cool stuff. Freeze protection. If I lose any communication from my thermostat, it allows that pump to start moving water through that zone, so it's not going to freeze that zone out. It also does zone synchronization. So a standard boiler is just on, I'm off. It doesn't matter which thermostat. Any thermostat can call for the boiler and really lock that thing down into a long cycle of runtime. What these AQ panels do is, even with regular thermostats, is it calculates which one's farthest off a set point and allows that one to call the boiler first, tops off all your other systems before the end of that runtime. So instead of locking the boiler into 90% runtime, it'll use about 30% less runtime to heat the house exactly the same. So it's really a cool feature that a lot of people don't understand. But hopefully you understand how I just put it, because that's what it's doing. It's just allowing the one farthest off the set point to be the one that says, hey, I'm in charge of the boiler right now, right? And then all these other ones that only needed a couple of degrees to get back to normal gets filled up first. And then that last one can finish its call, and then I'm not like, boiler just shut off, now the little one cuts it on again. So synchronization is a nice feature that's in that AQ panel from the factory. Now, when you get into bigger systems, you need you're moving from the legal pad to something that you really got to make nice, right? Because you guys do some pretty big work over there at Mission, right? You can't scratch that on a piece of paper and go hand it to a GC, right? You've got to put all this, you guys got CAD programs and all kinds of stuff. So I have what's called an AQ selection tool for those jobs, and it's free to you. So I'm going to open it up here. And this is the, oh, hold on one second, everybody. I got to figure out how to get that on my screen. Technical difficulties.
You have to drag it.
You have to drag it.
I got to do what?
Grab the top and drag it.
I don't know what that means. How do I drag it?
Very top of that PDF file, just kind of.
Let me see if I can make that work. All right, I don't know what I did. Help me. I'm a high-tech redneck, but I ain't that good. Hold on one second. Any questions while we're waiting on that? Anybody here?
Your Wi-Fi thermostats, they're only hooking up to 2.4 modems.
So his question was, does my Wi-Fi thermostat, all my Wi-Fi thermostats currently all hook up to 2.4 parts of the modem? I've got a 5 gig modem at my house. It also all 5 gig modems give both signals, okay? But when you tie it in, you got to tie it into 2.4, okay? We do have a stat coming that does both. And as new ones come out, they'll do both. But right now, everybody's Wi-Fi is pretty much 2.4, all right? I'm trying to get that screen to come up, yep. So if you see this wiring diagram here, oh, that's almost it, hold on. Oh man, I am really screwed.
Drag the PowerPoint over that screen.
To that screen.
From the confidence monitor to the big screen.
Confidence monitor.
I can't see this thing either.
Yeah, we're really in the dark over here with this.
I don't have much confidence in it.
I don't have much confidence in the confidence screen.
It's not on there.
Yeah, it's got to get on there somehow. I had it. There's that one. Tyler. There it is.
Okay.
Man, there's got to be an easier way to do this. I'm glad this is the last thing we're doing. All right, so can everybody, let me know when somebody online can tell me when they see the picture of the AQ panel. We good?
They're just launching off the camera.
Yeah, they don't have a copy of this.
Yeah.
But they can see this though? Okay. So the AQ Product Selector is a downloadable file, okay? So when you first log on to it, I've got, oh no, that's the wrong one, hold on. So I can go down one, and I've got if I've got non-programmable zone valves, here's 5 to 8 zones. If I click on that 5 to 8 zone solution, it's going to automatically give me my wiring diagram. It's going to lay out my parts list that I call Jackson and order it from. It's going to tell me where give me a simple diagram to go and put my pumps in and stuff. But let's say I wanted to do something different. I can print this page by hitting that print. I could also go back to the Product Selector. Here's my AutoCAD. I got an AutoCAD version. I got a PDF version. So if you've got all that CAD drawing software at your office, then you can go in there, pick the diagram you're going to do, and you can move those pumps and lines around and actually make a proper diagram you're going to actually use. Okay, this is giving you a kind of a ballpark of what it's going to be. But if you want to use your program, you can do that. Okay. Now, there's also some specialty stuff in here that I'll show you. So if I go back to, let's see here. If I go down, I've got a list of some different things that we can do. I'm going to get to the T775. So this is a scenario I brought up earlier in the presentation. I got 4 boilers at this church, and right now they've got 16 pumps, let's say, and they've got 16 thermostats and 16 just stupid relays above those pumps. Take and rip all that out. And then I'm going to put the panels in to manage those 16 pumps, right? Then I'm going to tie the thermostats into it. Then I'm going to take this T775 and I'm going to run 2 wires from my hydronic panel to this. This controller is going to take, I got 4 inputs. I'm going to put those boilers, TTs, right into that controller. That controller's got an outdoor sensor. That's going to put reset on that cast iron boiler so I can float between 140 and 180 degrees depending on my needs based on outdoor temperature. So you're saving that, you're getting some return on investment by updating that boiler control, right? Then it'll stage and lead lag from that control right there, okay? And that, what's a T775 roughly cost? A couple $100? They're not that expensive, right? You take the hydronic panel, they're not that expensive either. And I just took a big system that would have cost thousands and thousands of dollars of controls if I go to proper, what you normally run into out there. This stuff isn't hard to do. I mean, it's still resetting the cast iron boilers. It's managing all the zones. If I hook Wi-Fi stats to them, I can have some building automation that's free at the end of the day, right? You're not paying for all that mess. So is that cool, right? So that panel, this program, all that stuff will be in that file for you to have. Is this cool? Right? So I hope it is. I mean, it's hard to make water sexy, I guess, but we're trying. If is there any questions left online? Yes.
We just wanted to let the audience know that slide, it'll be in tomorrow. We'll
Okay,
update
yeah,
it.
there's a couple of them now this is a whole big PDF file that you can download, so we'll just put the link in there for you, but it's a nice file to have, okay? Because it spits out some pretty basic diagrams and then you can AutoCAD that stuff. So those AQs, let me do one more. Let's say that I wanted 16 zones and I had zones valve within switches. You see how it labels all the different zone panels together? These could be on different floors. So I could have this down at my actual boiler down in the main level and then have this a whole nother, let's say it was like a 4-story apartment complex and they got a pump, like a hydronic zone pretty much on each floor. If I mount that on that second floor, I've only got to tie these 2 wire busts together between those two, and it communicates all the boiler sends and feeds and everything that's going on with that system. No matter what thermostat you got hooked to it, it'll communicate back down on a 2-wire bus. So it's a really, really powerful piece of gear for those types of jobs, right? So I think we're a couple minutes over. We're going to give you 2 hours Nate credit if you're Nate, right? Because I'm a nice guy. And if you got any questions, you know how to reach out to these guys. You got another one? Go ahead.
We need to get 6 more minutes out of you
Go ahead.
to go to get Nate's
Who said that? The Nate guy?
Tyler.
Tyler. Okay, who's got questions?
Hey, what about those valves? You know what VA those will take?
Which valves? What VA on what valves? These valves? My zone valves?
Those valves.
So the Honeywell zone valves, I think, are like 7 VA. They're not that much. Some of them can really be high VA ratings on them. Like, what made those Tecos so high VA? Were there heaters on them or something? There was something that made them, they were power hogs, right? And that's why you could only, on a 40 VA transformer, you can only put 2 of them, so they're almost 20 VA each. But our air zone dampers and our air zone valves are almost exactly the same VA, very little, because they're power closed spring open or something like that. So,
Can you do another example of that mixing valve equation?
sure.
You ready to repeat the question?
Could I do another example of the mixing valve sizing? This one here you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to spit out what you need? Go ahead.
Just say you're 50 gallon.
All right, I'm at 50 gallons on my tank size.
Hot water temperature, say 160.
You got something that'll spit out 160 degrees?
Okay, then we'll say 130.
Because most residential water heaters only go to 140.
Commercial, though, sometimes your kitchens are a little bit hotter, right?
Well, if they're bringing water off of a boiler, they could be up to 180, right? So, but we could mix that temperature.
We do a lot of senior facilities, and they have some higher water temperatures.
They have higher water temps, like for the washing machine or something. So our mixing valves have ports on them that allow you to get the direct hot water before the mix. So that's what you normally do. So like if I got a clothes washer that I need super hot water to, or a dishwasher that I need super hot water to, all of our mixing valves have ports to get the hot side. Also, if I just needed direct cold water, not mixed cold water, then I've got ports on the cold valve as well to get to my ice maker or something. So those are already built on it. That's a good question. So our access ports are already there on those panels. There's also a recirc port for that long run at the end. Any online questions?
Adam, Comfort Master, is a big fan of yours. He wants to be a rep just like you, Gary.
Yeah, right. You don't have, your goals aren't very high, brother.
Joe also wanted to know if this, I think this is only NATE accredited, but you can't get any for state license, correct? You can't get CE with this course.
Where's he at?
I'm not sure.
What state are you in, bro? Well, so Kentucky, you have to, they have continuing education credits.
Oklahoma?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, to get, I don't know how Oklahoma works, but in Kentucky, you have to register with the state a month before you do the class. So, I mean, I'd love to, but no, sir, I don't.
Oh, he says Ohio. Not
Yeah,
Oklahoma.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I only cover, the only state that I cover is Kentucky that has those. And like I said, I don't know how Ohio works, but if I do it in Kentucky, I have no idea, man. I really don't. So, usually it's something that we have to know well ahead of time before we do that. Any other questions before we're out?
No, Adam was serious. He really likes you and wants to apply. So
All
I'm
right,
sending
Adam.
him a link to.
Adam, I'm single. You want to go out on a date? Call me. I'm kidding. I appreciate the time. Okay. Hydronics. Like I said, we're in Indianapolis right here. So I go to Fort Wayne. I start talking to people that's doing boilers all the time. I talk to Loves. They're all over the old part of the city. You guys see a lot of boilers. You guys do a lot on the commercial side. There's more boiler work around here than you realize. There's more hydronic pumps around here than you realize. You're probably, if you're the kind of tech that's going out and hitting, and doing that type of service work, that going and getting a pump is a pain in the butt sometimes. And so take a look at ours. I mean, you can stock 3 and change so many.
Yeah.
It's just like having a universal gas valve or a universal thermostat. A lot of the stuff we make on the water side is universal too. So
Awesome.
Thank you, JD.
Gary, thank you so much, as always. And if you have any questions on tonight's training, you guys can always contact us at Jackson Systems. You can email us at info@jacksonsystems.com. You can visit our website. You can call us and we'll answer as long as we're open. Call us at 888-652-9663. That's 888-652-9663. Also, in case you missed any part of this presentation, if you came in late or had to leave, go get a sandwich, turn on Netflix for a little bit, and then come back to the presentation, this will be on our on-demand section for contractor resources on the Jackson Systems website. So you can share it with your team. If somebody wanted to be here and they couldn't be here tonight, you guys can also share that with them. So it should be up by tomorrow. But we want to say thank you for attending tonight, everyone online watching. Thank you very much for attending, especially you guys here making your way out here. So please contact us at Jackson. We'd love to help you out with the new Hydronics line. You guys have a very good night, and please be safe. Drive safe. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.